Oops. Hi there. How are you? It's good to see you. I took a couple weeks off. Turns out I needed it more than I thought I did, but we're back. I have a super fun video for us today that I've kind of been itching to share. I want to talk to you guys about the perfect Canon R5 cinema rig, at least for me, my perfect Canon R5 cinema rig. So this particular camera rig is based largely off of Caleb Pike's perfect camera rig video that he made a couple years ago, but I've made some small modifications to sort of fit my needs for my perfect camera cinema rig. First things first, the camera. I shoot exclusively on the Canon R5, so that's sort of what I'm building the rig around. And then my lens of choice is actually a Canon 16-35 f2.8, the Mark I version of that lens. Now that's not the lens that I have on the rig right now because I'm actually using that lens to film this video. This particular lens is a Sigma 35mm f1.4. To build your rig around your camera, you're going to have some sort of cage. Now I went with the small rig half cage, although I am seriously considering moving to a full cage so I can have mounting options on both sides of the camera. On the bottom of the camera, I mounted a small rig camera base plate with 15mm rod clamps. The rod clamps are a crucial portion of this particular rig build. Now, a quick pause. Caleb actually recommends putting a quick release between your camera cage and the small rig base plate. I did not do that, but I am going to because I see what he was talking about. Now, there's really not an easy way to get your camera out of this rig without having to use a screwdriver and other tools. So I can't recommend the quick release just yet because I haven't personally tried it, but I will be getting one sooner than later because it just seems like a justifiable add-on. Underneath the small rig camera base plate is a Manfrotto tripod plate. Next, I mounted two 6-inch 15mm rods through the camera base plate, making room for me to add the camera battery plate that I'm about to talk about next. Next up, I went with the small rig battery plate that comes with two 15mm rod clamps. There's a more expensive version of this particular battery plate that allows you to hot swap the batteries. I cheaped out with this particular option because it just doesn't seem incredibly necessary for me, and I'm perfectly happy with my choice. For power, I went with the CamTV Mini V-mount battery. I'm a big fan of this option because not only does it have two D-tap power outlets, but it also has a USB outlet and it has a battery indicator on the side. Next, I'm running a Hersmay LPE6 to D-tap dummy battery from the Canon R5 to the V-mount battery. I grabbed two small rig 1.5-inch NATO rails, and I'll show you what I'm gonna do with the second one in a minute, but the first one just mounts to the top of the camera rig. For the top handle, I went with the Nitsy Lil Stinger version 2. I like this because it has a clamp on the bottom that will slide onto NATO rails. It has a comfortable grip and it has multiple thread options for adding various things like microphones, wireless units, field monitors, so on and etc. To the front of the handle, I'm adding the second 1.5-inch small rig NATO rail, and then to that, I'm attaching a small rig field monitor mount. I'm a big fan of this monitor mount because not only is it super low profile and work with NATO rails, but you can also adjust the monitor without having to loosen or tighten anything. For my monitor, I'm using the OC-T5 Plus 5-inch monitor. Now, I'm a big fan of this particular monitor. The one thing that I don't like is that it is not a touchscreen. You have to use the little joystick on the side to pretty much do anything extra on the monitor, but beyond that, it's a fantastic monitor. I've been using it for close to a year now, and it hasn't let me down yet. To power the monitor, I'm using a Gyrovu, I'm not sure which. It's an NPF to D-tap dummy battery. I'm running that cable down the left side of the camera and then plugging it into the last remaining D-tap port on my battery. Then I'm just using a generic 12-inch braided micro HDMI to full-size HDMI cable to send signal to the monitor. And then lastly, just to keep things clean, I'm using a 1/4-inch expandable cable loom that I picked up on Amazon. I also took a Velcro cable tie and cut a couple of small pieces out of it, and then used it on the ends of the cable loom in order to sort of clean things up that much more. A quick note, there is no easy way to feed the MPF to DTAP cable through this wire loom, considering how thin it is. I actually had to completely disassemble the DTAP end, feed the cables through the loom, and then reassemble it on the other side. I love the cable loom because it gives me such a clean and minimal look, but it's definitely a labor of love if you decide to go this route. And that's it. That is my perfect Canon R5 camera rig. Again, this may not be perfect for everybody, but it definitely does the job for me as both a documentary style filmmaker. I do a lot of run and gun style filmmaking. I do a lot of work here on YouTube, but I also shoot a lot of weddings. I'll leave links to everything that I can down in the description if you're interested in building out a camera rig like this. Also, if you have built out a rig similar to this and you have any tips or tricks or things that you'd like for me to know, I'd love to hear them down in the comments. Please don't be afraid to drop a comment. I'll try to reply to as many of them as I can. But in the meantime, you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching. You guys are awesome. I can't wait to see you in the next one. I'll see you there. Bye.